Welcome back to Hardball. A report by the Pentagon's Inspector General discounts claims by top Bush administration officials before the war in Iraq that Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda worked together in Iraq. The report was released on a day when Vice President Cheney continued to defend the existence of an Al-Qaeda Iraq connection on Rush Limbaugh's radio show. Let's listen to Rush and Dick.
Remember Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, Jordanian terrorist, Al-Qaeda affiliate, ran a training camp in Afghanistan for Al-Qaeda, then migrated after we went into Afghanistan and shut him down there. He went to Baghdad, took up residence there before we ever launched into Iraq, organized the Al-Qaeda operations inside Iraq before we even arrived on the scene, and then, of course, led the charge for Iraq until we killed him last June.
Those are the talking points of Scooter Libby. Scooter Libby wrote those talking points before he left, and they're given to him by Doug Feith. And now the vice president reads them as if they're the truth today. Are they true, what he was saying?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know what these guys are on. There were contacts between Saddam Hussein and Qaeda in 94 and 95. We knew about them. They didn't go anywhere.
But couldn't you say that about any Arab country?
Any Arab country. It means it's meaningless. We know they went. No, we had an inside track on this. You know, in the famous Ata-Ani meeting in Prague. Where
never happened.
Never happened. The FBI and the CIA said categorically it never happened. Yet they continued to run with this story, convinced 70-some% of Americans Saddam. It's a lie. This is truly the big lie.
Well, you had the vice president saying it, and he does have a credibility in the way he talks. He has this sort of avuncular fashion. He seems like a middle-of-the-roader. He seems like a Leon Panetta or a Lee Hamilton, a nonpartisan guy. He's extremely committed to this war policy, and yet he comes across with that we and that we now know, and it works.
Chris,
it's scary, but it works.
It's nonsense. They know where Zarqawi was. He was in Pakistan.
He wasn't Al-Qaeda.
He wasn't Al-Qaeda. And it's nonsense. It was a mistake. And the officers who supposedly handled the relations between Saddam and bin Laden have come out and now work for American authorities in Iraq.
Okay, let's talk about how this happened. We went to war for a lot of reasons. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of it for 10 or 20 years, but the president wanted to go, the vice president wanted to go, the intellectuals wanted to go, the neocons so-called. They all wanted to go for all different reasons. But they made the case we were going to go with the American middle, which who decided we were for this war, by saying there was a nuclear threat. Then they suggested this kind of amorphous connection to 9/11. That somehow, remember the country music, remember how you felt, and all that. It was a continuous drumbeat of the way to get even for what happened to us in New York and in Pennsylvania and at the Pentagon was to go hit them hard in Iraq. That somehow, you know what I mean? They did it over and over for almost 2 years there. What do we do with that kind of propaganda effort?
It was total propaganda. They went to the CIA, they went to the Pentagon, to Doug Feith, and said, give us talking points so we can go to war. And that's when Tenet's slam dunk came in. He says, yes, we can sell this case to the American people. But the Middle East is complicated, and that's the way they got away with it. It was.
Well, let me ask you for a metaphor. I've been trying to struggle with this, and it's always tricky. Were the people cooking up, like Doug Feith, the people who cooked up the intel and Scooter Libby, when they handed it to their principals, like Cheney, who's a rational guy, Cheney, and the president's, I think, rational, were they like a bartender who kept serving a drunk beer, just keep giving them what they wanted? I mean, who wanted it? Who wanted the bad intel? Who said, give me that stuff?
Cheney did. He goes to the Situation Room and said, we know Saddam's a bad guy. Give me stuff, and they'd bring
Give me a case.
They'd bring in what they could, and they said, no, this isn't good enough. I can't sell a war on this. I want everything. And then he cherry-picked this trash. That intelligence was trash on Saddam.
Well, who wrote the Cohen-Powell statement to the UN? Who put that together?
The CIA did. But the CIA...
Why? If they didn't believe in it, why'd they do it?
Because they were ordered to. They dipped into the tangential intelligence, which was unconfirmed, and they said, if you really want it, here it is. We don't trust it. These are I know these guys. They're all my colleagues.
You know, fighting an aggressive war is a war crime. Objectively. You can't just fight a war because you don't like another country. You have to have some reason for it, some self-defense reason.
The crime hasn't even started.
Did we fight a war just for aggressive reasons? Or was there a self-defense aspect?
We fought a war on a lie. And that's the important issue, on a lie.
Whose?
The administrations, the White Houses. It was not the CIAs, it was not the Pentagons. This stuff was ordered top down.
What's George Tenet going to say in his book when it comes out in a couple of weeks? Is he going to say, they made me do it?
Tenet is a political servant of Washington. He'll come in and say, this is what they wanted. I served the president. This executive branch. I was an employee.
Who's the CIA director responsive to under the Constitution, under our former
President
government?
of the United
So
States.
if the president says the moon is made of blue cheese, he's supposed to say that.
Got to. And then they put it in the National Intelligence Estimate, October 2002, gave it to Congress. And then they went out to the press and sold this. I mean, look, the Washington Post and the New York Times were.
Why would some young person with a good education ever want to serve an agency like the CIA if they were told what you just said? That the purpose of our Central Intelligence and Defense Intelligence is to mouth the words the president once spoken and not to defend this country.
The attrition rate is horrendous at the CIA as of today. People are leaving. They're calling me for looking for jobs. And if they're calling me, they're in trouble.
Well, whatever you think about it, we need intelligence. We need it more than ever.
And by the way, this director is much better than anyone in the past. He is really trying to
Will he stand up against the ideologues in this administration, the Scooter Libby's and the Doug Fights?
The Pentagon's still preeminent.
So they still call him up and tell him what they want.
They have all the money. They have the satellites. They've got the intercepts.
I wish Capitol Hill, it's spending a lot of time on the U.S. Attorney's issue. I wish they'd start calling people like Doug Feith and Scooter and those people up there and say, how do we get in this war? Just for the history books. Just to get it written down. Nobody's going to jail.
Somebody's got to be held responsible. We're going to be there 10 years from now. There's going to be tens of thousands killed. The worst thing you'd say with this policy is it's very hard to deal with it now. The worst thing you'd say, we went into a box canyon, and now there is no good way out. There is no way out.
And that's the problem. That wasn't good policy.
Trillions
to put
and
us where we can't get out.
People can't
You're
get
supposed
out.
to take us where we're in a stronger position with more options. Anyway, that's a political statement. Anyway, thank you.